parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. I said, in this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. You make this parade a mere charade if you're marching just for fun. Our troops must feel your thanks for real before the marching is done. They know side by side you can match their stride to the drum beat and the brass, but they're not impressed with you unless you can match their stride in class. This may not sound too diplomatic, but I cannot be more emphatic as I tell you, it's problematic when you do less than your best. Especially when it's because you put your brilliance on pause for the mere peer applause it draws from a so-called friend doing less. Quit playing, I'm saying, you know that you are great, and we know it, so show it. Don't make our heroes wait. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. For those of you who already do the things that make us proud, your nation in appreciation says thanks to you out loud. Your schoolmates should imitate the way you tap your potential. Let me try to convince them why their effort is essential. Our men and women in uniform, before, during, and after Desert Storm, always perform above the norm, anywhere and everywhere on the planet. They need to follow our heroes' lead, but they cannot lead if they cannot read. Allow me, please, to plant this seed. Don't take freedom for granted. I'm serious, I'm furious to see U.S. schools behind. Remove the clatter, it's just a matter of our making up our minds. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. We believe in you, warriors protect you to do what you must to rise. Please do your part. Please start before another warrior dies. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. They sacrifice for you. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. Please.
Good afternoon and welcome to Wave Your Grades on KUAW.org, the academic patriotism program that is dedicated to veterans and serious secondary scholars. I am your announcer, DeQuay Wilson. Now here is our host, civilian urban educator, Carl Boyd.
Thank you so very, very much. Good afternoon. Welcome to Wave Your Grades, KUAW.org. This is a very special program this afternoon with a very special guest for some very special reasons. This is Saturday, June 14th, so certainly I'm going to start the program with a Happy Father's Day. And there are many whom we know who are indeed biological fathers, and there are adoptive fathers, and there are fathers in many ways, but the most serious factor is that of agape love and the fact that we do get the opportunity to celebrate even in some peculiar times in which we're currently living. We have a very special guest this afternoon because of the number of things she might broach as it relates to involvements past and future, but most importantly, what she's doing in the present. Now, DeQuay Wilson and Louis George Walker, Sister Rebecca Bradley, in each instant, when I mentioned to our producer and founder your name, and I said that you would be with us this afternoon, both DeQuay Wilson and Louis George Walker had the same response. That is really good. So, and I'm very serious about that. I had not planned an opening like this, but when they said that, I thought, let me just ask DeQuay, let me just ask Louis what came up in their minds or how it was, because they were sincere. I wasn't asking them to say that, and that's what they said. DeQuay Wilson helped me out.
First of all, she's always a joy to be around. She's been around for a while. Secondly, she's God-fearing. And thirdly, she is constantly busy in this community. So I know she's got a lot to talk about.
Praise God. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, to your right, and in front of us is Louis George Walker. Louis George Walker, founder of KUAW.org. He is a gentleman who works with young people in robots, technology, all kinds of things at the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center. But he, and I was on the phone, I couldn't see him, but I felt him brighten up when I said the name Rebecca Bradley. Now let him please explain why that was your reaction.
Well, Rebecca is probably one of close to the most visited guests that we've had, and every time she comes, she brings such a spirit
Yes,
of
sir.
up. I've never seen her, or she came in here down about anything. There's always been positive stuff about moving forward or what we're doing or what she's working with the veterans on and helping veterans get something. So somebody that's constantly looking at helping others is always a joy to be around. They're not saying me, me, me. They're kind of saying, hey, I'm out doing, we're doing and helping and stuff. So it's always a pleasure to be around people like that are willing to give back to the community, because many times we could say, well, hey, I've done mine, I want to go home and sit
Absolutely.
back and just relax. But
Yes.
something keeps you getting up in the morning and saying, there's something else I can do.
And yes, indeed, Louis George Walker, that was so profound in that the operable word, Sister DeQuay, was when he said, she says we, not I, but we. But it also manifests in behavior. It's not just vocabulary, we, but indeed there are some we's in the life of Rebecca Bradley, and we want to talk about some of those. But before we do that, let me ask, if you would, out of my own curiosity, Louis George Walker said you are one of the most, if not the most, visited person on our program, and yet there are still things I don't know about Rebecca Bradley. Why don't you just give us some background before we come up to today?
Well, as you guys know, I worked with minority veterans as the Minority Veterans Coordinator. I really took that job to the greatest sincerity because there's a need in our community for knowledge. Because if you don't have knowledge, then you're going to perish.
Yes.
And being able to get the information out to our veterans so they could take advantage of their benefits, it helped our community to grow. It helped the families to grow. And I still try to find ways whereas I could try to get the information out. I've been working on a book for 3 years.
Oh, excellent.
It's a planner/journal, and it is for veterans where they can read it and find out what are some of the most frequently asked questions.
Wow.
And then the journaling portion is designed so they could write down their evidence. Because getting a claim is based on evidence.
Yes.
You can write down your
Yes.
doctor's appointments, and then you keep the journal, and you'll know when you went to the doctor,
Listen, this is so excellent. And by the way, I often say, Sister DeQuay, Brother Lewis, if you have something to say, if I'm turned away, jump right in. And I mean that Rebecca, because she's a part of all of us. But let me tell you why this is so very important. This is a true story. And Paseo exit, taking 70 going west, the Paseo exit. There was a gentleman, and I later found out his name was Reginald, who had a sign, and he was needing some help. And when I meet people, I like to find out their name. Brother Reginald was down on his luck. And when he came over to the car so that I might give him a little something, he said, "Man, let me just tell you the truth. This is not my thing. I don't feel comfortable out here." I said, "Brother, you don't have to explain. What's your name?" He told me his name. I wanted to know where he was from, because once in a while I find somebody from Chicago or something like that. I had thought of Rebecca Bradley, and I said to him, "Are you a veteran?" And he said, "No, man, I've never been in the service." And he kind of shook his head like, "So I can't go that route. I would love to be able to if I could." But before he backed up, I said, "Do you have veterans in your family?" Now he named 3 people in his family, including his dad. It just happened that this was at a time when we were in touch with Rebecca Bradley. And I got some information that he took to the VA. And let me tell you the other thing that's wonderful about Rebecca Bradley. Everybody's trip to the VA is not satisfactory. Sometimes they have to come back to her then. But I'm saying, given that story, and forgive me for taking this long to get to the next thing, but you were talking about NAPBITs. You were talking about representing minorities. Many people look at you, they hear the word minority, and they think Rebecca Bradley serves black people exclusively. That's it. Will you give us, over your history, your client base that involves a few more than just black males?
Yeah, this is true, because minority is just that. It's a minority group of people.
Yes.
And veterans are a minority within these United States.
Wow.
Because there are few that raise their hand and say, "I will go." So I look at all veterans, regardless of race, color, or gender, because the information is needed by all of them. You know, I've had one gentleman who came from Appleton, Missouri, because somebody told him to come see me.
Absolutely.
You know, I would get phone calls from around the United States, because people here have relatives in various and different states, and they would call me. The best I could do was give them advice.
Exactly.
You know, and the best advice is to provide them with the knowledge, whereas it can be fruitful.
Now,
because we want them to get their benefits.
Absolutely. Louis George Walker, who is hearing us, and how can those who would like to get us?
All right. Right now, we want to thank everyone that is joining in and is listening to this broadcast right now. This is KUAW Radio, which stands for Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. We were formed in a partnership with the Black Family Technology Awareness Association and the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center to give you news, information, and a little entertainment right here on the internet, over the airways, and any way that you pick us up. You can listen to us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're also on Get Me Radio, online radio box, My Radio Tuner. You can pick us up on KOJH 105 FM, Kansas City's original jazz station. So there's a lot of ways you can listen to us. And even if you have a smart speaker at home, if you have that Google or Amazon, you tell Alexa to play KUAW Radio, and we'll come over that too. So there's a lot of ways to pick us up, and we're broadcasting 24 hours a day. So we thank you for listening and hope you'll tell a friend.
Thank you so very, very, very much. And by the way, again, just come right in if you have a question and or a comment. Sure. Interestingly enough, I'm looking at when our producer and co-host, DeQuay Wilson, gave us the sign to start, and she introduced the program. So it's been more than 12 minutes that we've been on. I did not start with the most important thing in Rebecca's life. And you are embarking upon something that will involve young people but on the title of information that I saw the word missionary. I saw in your explanation how you want to help introduce our young people to their faith side. Will you tell us something about that?
Yeah, the scripture says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is older, he will not depart from it. That's not to say that the child will engage in mischief.
Thank you very much.
All right.
But when we find that we are in a bind,
Ooh,
we know to look up. However, a lot of people are not going to church.
okay.
And I think it got worse since the pandemic.
All right.
And people who were going to church pretty much stopped going to church. But I have to say a lot of them are listening to the pastor on the radio or
Ooh,
on
good
the
point.
internet.
Yes.
However, it still is not quite the same as being in church, being involved,
Mhm.
because when you're in church, you and your child touch so many lives, or so many lives will touch you and them. I remember when my little girl was going to church, we would separate, go to our Sunday school class. And then here she comes up with all these little kisses of lipstick on her face and a pocket full of candy, And that is what these children need. They need to know that they are loved.
Wow.
They'll get it in the home.
Yes.
But we want them to know that the community loves them as well. And we want to shape them. We want to mold them, give them guidance.
Yes.
Because a lot of times they may not get it at home. A lot do.
Mhm.
But, being a single parent is difficult. And even if you have a father and a mother in the home, it too can at times be demanding, because one, if not both, have to get out and work. And if you're not working with your children, the world is going to teach them.
Yes.
And that's something that we do not want to do. What I try to do is get out and do community outreach.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we have a Christmas program. My ministry is Home Missions Outreach Ministry.
Okay.
I started in 2008. I got my ordination in 2014. And we started doing nursing home ministry. We were doing street ministry,
Wow.
youth ministry. And so whatever we could do, and I'm working on social media ministry. But the overall objective is to tell a dying world, in my corner of the earth, that Jesus loves them.
Yes.
And at Christmas time, I started off, I got my prototype from Assemblies of God. They would come to our church, and in the summertime, they would take our children up to their campsite one day for free because they couldn't afford it. They would swim, they would play games, they would feed them, and they put on a little stage show. And then when they played those games, they got tickets. And before they went home, they would get toys, and they would get on the
Wow.
bus. Everybody was
Okay.
happy.
Yes.
And I believe that we need to give back,
Yes.
and so I try to duplicate what was given to our children.
Well, you make me think of two things immediately. One, no doubt, is as you make things available, we need to know how you can be contacted. So that's one thing, contact information.
All right. But at Christmas time,
Yes.
the Lord blessed me. One thing they did that I said, I can do this.
Okay.
They would use new and used toys.
Okay.
So I would save up what little money I had, and I
My
love to
goodness.
thrift store shop. You know, those babies, they don't know no difference. I had one little girl, she had a brand new stroller, and she had a little used baby, and she said, "Oh, my baby." You know, things like that
Yes.
bring joy
Yes.
to a child, you know, and we try to get the parents involved if it is possible, and you know, feed them, let them run around, play games.
Yes.
And then we would do a puppet show or storytelling, and it's all based on Jesus. Now, a lot of people said Santa
Praise
Claus.
God.
A lot of people say Santa Claus is
Mhm.
not real. But you know, when I was working with the veterans and we was
Yes.
trying to find them, my sister said, "You got to go where they're at.
Come
You got to
on.
go find them."
Come on.
And that's the same way when you're working with youth.
Yes.
You got to go find them. You got to go where they're at. And I know that there's a lot of children that watch TV at Christmas time and they're
Yes.
talking about Santa. So I went and I got me a Santa, Mrs. Santa outfit. It was just red and white at the time. And now I have me a little Santa Claus, and I did a little studying on Santa Claus. And Santa Claus was named after a saint in modern day Turkey.
Okay.
He loved Jesus, and it was not few centuries after Jesus. And he would give to the community, and then he would give to the children. And that's a true story.
Yes.
Just like St. Valentine's, he got put in jail because he loved a woman, you know. And then we look at St. Nicholas, not St. Nicholas,
Listen to this.
St. Patrick.
Just in case somebody tuned in, this is Rebecca Bradley. This is actually that Rebecca Bradley who talks to us about veterans. And this is so important and so delightful.
Mm-hmm.
A veteran comes home, needs an education. Call Rebecca Bradley. A veteran comes home, needs a job. Call Rebecca Bradley. A veteran comes home and needs to have wounds attended to. Call Rebecca Bradley. A veteran comes home and is accused of suffering from PTSD. Call Rebecca Bradley. Now, therefore, if I'm going to give out contact information for Rebecca Bradley and a 7-year-old wants to know her number, oh, baby, I'm sorry. She doesn't deal with kids. She works with... But wait, somebody tuned in June 14th and found out that she has a solid ministry. So before you go on, please do, in fact, give contact information.
Okay,
I want to get back
do
to
have
that.
another number outside of my personal cell. It is area code 816-551-1077.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that is my second cell phone for the ministry.
551-1077.
Yes,
And the area code is 816.
that is correct.
And seriously speaking, this is why this is important. It is indeed June 14th. This is a time for young people to go on vacation.
right.
And you have a more formal ministry coming up, and we'll talk about Central, I think it is,
Yeah.
Central Middle School or Central High School.
If
But before
we can get in.
Yes, but before we do that, and you're talking about the Assemblies of God and how it manifests in your ministry. If I have someone to whom I want you to be introduced, what would be going on between June and August or September? Anything?
Yes, I do have some things I would
Wow.
have to look at my schedule, but right now I
Absolutely.
think it became free in some aspects. But my goal is to
Wow.
teach our youth entrepreneurial
Okay.
and life skills. What little skills that I could offer.
Oh my Lord.
It falls in the it
Just
falls in
today
the realm
gives us-
of crafting, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and Brother Louis George Walker, we work together with the youth in introducing them technology.
My God.
You know, because that is the wave of the future. My daughter married an engineer,
Oh, okay.
and
okay.
he liked working with drones.
Can you imagine?
Mm-hmm. And he got a decent job as he got out of college. But that is an area that I think we should continue to look at, because there's a lot of things that we have discovered. When I say we
Yes.
as African Americans
Yes.
in the area of technology, whereas we're not getting enough acknowledgement.
Thank you very much. Now, let me also say that we appreciate your humility. There are many moms who, when they mention their daughter with the background that your daughter had, would give the daughter's resume, as it were. But you introduced us to her as she was entering college. Is this the daughter?
Yes, she graduated from college with
Yes.
a master's in education.
Now you're talking.
And so, but now she is working for a tech company, and they appreciate her skills and background as a teacher. And that is
Yes.
another wave that we need to get into, is technology. She's selling cybersecurity software to companies. And she said, Mom, a lot of the companies, they're relying on old technology. Well, we live in a day and time you cannot, because there are so many people as smart as her husband not using their skills to help, but to steal. And we
Ooh,
need that
my God.
technology.
Well, let
you
me
know.
please allow me to ask Louis George Walker a question, if I might, because sometimes you and I, being jovial, talk about technology and quote, in our time, unquote.
Yes.
But here we are on a program where one of our guests mentions the word drones just in the flow of the conversation.
Oh, sure.
I am wont to say drones, but let's hear how Louis George Walker sets the table
Yeah.
for us.
Not a thing that is uncommon anymore.
Yeah.
That you do have drones, and we actually had a class for kids in drones last semester.
Yes.
Because we've added that to the robotics, because drones are another robot. They fly in the air as opposed to running on the ground, but it
Yes.
is a remote control, programmable item, so it all fits in to that same learning curve. And that's where, once you start learning one thing, you can apply it to other things. So that's like try to get kids to know, and adults too, that if you learn, as Leon Dixon would say, if you learn how to work 99% of how to fix a Ford, you can fix almost any other car out there.
Okay.
Because there's not that much difference between all of them. So if you learn one technology,
Yes.
if you learn one technology pretty good, you can work in a lot of different fields, because there's not that much difference if you know the technology, if you know the underlying coding, if you know
Yes.
how things work in there. So to change from a robot to a drone to a crop dusting machine is not that big of a stretch once you're into it.
Yes.
It's like if you learn how to swim, you know how to do the breaststroke. Well, it's not that hard to learn how to do the backstroke
Okay.
once you learn how to swim.
Yes, sir.
You
Yes,
know?
sir.
So that's the goal, is we've got to teach our kids how to swim.
Now.
They can add onto it a lot of different things, but if they learn how to swim in the technology field, then they may go into cybersecurity, graphic design, AI development,
Now let me go over to DeQuay, because DeQuay and I can empathize with each other. We haven't had a whole lot of this conversation about our involvement with technology at that level.
Mine isn't quite there.
So we can empathize, but let me go back to Rebecca Bradley and put it in this context. Sister Rebecca Bradley, Louis George Walker just talked about the needs of children as it relates not only to knowledge about, but the use of the technology to increase the knowledge.
Yes.
So children need, students need, schools need. I'm a grown man. I don't need technology. What would you say to me?
You know, there's a sign in this building that's stuck in my mind, and it has Obama
Okay.
talking about the telephone. He said, don't just play with it. Don't just, go back and forth on social media with it. Learn how to program it.
All right.
And as adults, that's what we have to learn too.
Okay.
Because if we don't become familiar, with scammers,
Ooh, yes,
they
ma'am.
can scam
Yes.
us.
Yes.
And we need to be able to identify, is this a for real logo?
Absolutely.
Because they have fake logos.
My God.
Yes.
My
and
God.
they have misspellings.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
as, adults, we need to be able to block them.
After this break, we're going to take our break, our mid-program break. Juan and I have watched TV, and we were watching, frankly, basketball, pro basketball. And they replayed the game, and the figures looked like AI figures playing this game. And I just want to know what is going on with this technology right before our eyes. And we'll come back to that, but first turn it over to Sister DeQuay Wilson.
Reminding our 7th through 12th grade students that you can win a monetary award from our sponsoring organization. Yes, we do say organization on purpose, with purpose. Stews for Boots. Your essay title will be Heroes You Know You Didn't Know Were Heroes. Your contents will identify a veteran who can be absolutely anyone, a veteran at your school who can be absolutely anyone, a cafeteria worker, bus driver, absolutely anyone. If your essay is chosen and submitted by an adult who gives you permission to read it on this Waive Your Grades program, you will be awarded a monetary prize. Please send entry or inquiry to academicpatriotism@gmail.com. That is academicpatriotism@gmail.com. Now back to our host, Carl Boyd.
Thank you very, very, very much. And we will get back to Reverend Dr. Bishop Rebecca. But let me tell you something that is intriguing to me when you say the word cyber security. I'm watching something in real time on TV, and what I'm looking at looks like we look just normal.
Right.
Now, there's a replay. They go to a break and come back, and the figures look artificial. What does that mean? Is there any danger there? Is that just a money-saving way of reproducing?
Yeah.
But it's a
Yes to both.
Okay.
Yes to both. I mean, it saves money, but it's showing how artificial intelligence and any kind of computer graphics can be used to reproduce things to make them look real.
Yes, sir.
Right.
It used to be easily detected. Something really looked like, oh, well, that looked
Real
like the computer
artificial.
did it.
Right.
And stuff. When you'd watch movies and stuff. Matter of fact, I used to kind of get mad when they put something in there. Like, okay, you could tell that they just put that in there with a computer.
Yeah.
But now it's not even as noticeable. That
Exactly.
they do it and stuff. So they can make things to look. And artificial intelligence is another tool. And it's a group of tools. It's not one thing. People say they use AI. But AI is graphics. AI is text. AI is
Okay.
coding. AI is, there's a lot of different things that
Okay.
AI is using. And some of us are using it or being used by it
Ooh.
constantly
Yes, sir.
and don't even know it.
Yes, sir.
AI is already here. So people talk about it's coming. No, it's here.
Yes.
And they're using it to predict things, to tell you driving patterns, to do a lot of different stuff. And not all of it has a nefarious
Exactly.
background to it. Some
Yes.
of it is for your safety. Some of it makes it more convenient for us. I mean, a lot of us now, if you didn't have a GPS, we'd be still driving around out there on the highway
Wow.
looking for this address,
Yes,
so,
sir.
As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
a black woman invented GPS?
Well, I tell you, as you go into that technology and you look at the African Americans in it,
Wow.
it's amazing.
Yes, sir.
It is amazing
Yes,
the
sir.
technological things that we as the people have contributed
Yes.
to the technology moving forward.
Let me read this.
A
It
lot of
says,
fields. Go ahead.
Gladys West, a mathematician. West works on satellites, particularly for programming of early computers to model the Earth's shape, was crucial for the development of GPS.
Come on.
Yeah.
Female. And then there was Valerie Thomas, was working at NSA, invented a device that create three-dimensional images. How come we don't know about them?
My Lord, my Lord. Now, this takes us into precisely that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would suspect, with Louis George Walker's background, that there are so many things that you do that surprise people that, in fact, will just blow your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And Louis George Walker and Rebecca Bradley would have us to calm down. It might appear mind-blowing, but our children have the capacity not just to learn it, but to master it.
Yes.
Yeah. And should be encouraged in it.
Yes, sir.
That diversity that some people use as a bad word and stuff now is
Yes.
not necessarily a bad thing and stuff,
Come
because
on.
you have to look at things from different points of view and
Yes.
different ways of looking at it. There's a lady now, African American, that is, her company and what she does is to fight bias that is built into AI. You know, because there's
Okay.
a lot of bias that's
Okay.
already built in, not knowingly sometimes, but if you've always worked around one type of people, your world is developed around one type of people. So when you tell AI, this is good, this is bad,
Wow.
they may see another person and say, well, wait a minute, that must be bad. That doesn't fit the model that I've got. Or if it looks at pictures of faces and all of them were one color,
Yes, sir.
and
yes,
then
sir.
all of a sudden it sees another color
Come on.
and stuff, then it says, I don't know, that's not a person.
Yes.
Because all people look like this. It's a baby. It's learning. You know, and they've been fighting that and stuff. I'll have to look up her name. But she's done a lot of talks and works in the industry
Yes.
to help eliminate some unconscious bias.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's just like with men and women. If all the studies were done with men responding to it, you'd have one idea,
Yeah.
say, about pregnancy.
Yes, sir.
But you never asked any women about it.
Come
So when
on.
the AI comes back, all it's going to come back is with the male point of view of it, because it has no other information to
Yes.
look for.
Yes.
So those are things that we have to try to make sure aren't there, is the biases.
See, I can appreciate this so much because my background being what it was, somebody says to me, Gladys West, and I'll say, didn't she sing Midnight Train to Georgia? And he said, no. Not Gladys Knight. This is Gladys West. Oh, well, who is Gladys West? Well, you're helping us to understand.
Yes.
There are a whole
And-
lot of those names.
And we have biases that aren't noticed, and that was back with the Brown versus Topeka.
Yes.
School was talking about the biases. You know, the
Absolutely.
dolls and stuff that they used in that
Yes,
stuff.
sir.
There's biases, maybe not intentional or you didn't think about it, but
Yes.
hey, once you know, you got to say, okay, we got to do better.
You know what occurs to me where Rebecca Bradley is concerned, and this is so good, Brother Louis George Walker, in as much as we're talking about the expanse of technology, your military experience includes an appreciation for international relations. So we're talking about people from China, we're talking about people from India, we're talking about people, and you are comfortable in the conversation as you help children to learn and to understand.
This is true. You know, that's why we have to keep our children at the forefront of technology, and that's why I appreciate what you're doing.
Yes.
Because if I could get a boatload or a busload of kids and get them over here, I would. You know, because too often the internet is good, but it has a lot of things that are distracting.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And then they have
This
influencers
is
who are
interesting.
not influencing our children in the way of technology.
Ooh.
Because they make good money.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
And
ma'am.
generational wealth is created from these companies because you have to be on the bottom level to learn the information.
Wow.
They get promoted up.
Yes.
Nobody is going to get promoted up unless you start off at the bottom.
My God.
And that's how generational wealth is kept.
Yes.
So we need to teach our children the basics, and we need to have recruiters or know of recruiters that can go out and introduce them to these companies.
Yes, ma'am.
So they can get that information. Because it's not that all white people or all Asian people are smart. We have
Thank you.
smart black children, as
Yes.
evidence from what I just pulled up on the internet.
Absolutely.
It's opportunity
Absolutely.
to advance.
And it's interesting because we're talking about high technology. I can remember something as simple as, and today in 2025, I can say as simple as.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the day in Chicago, Ebony Magazine had a big article on inner city chess champions.
Yes.
And there were those who felt that we don't play chess. And here we are knocking it out of the park.
Yes.
And in that same vein, today, a Gladys West is coming into the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center on Saturdays, and we don't know her yet. And this is so important what you do. Will you please talk about the program and some of the things that young people will get from the formal program?
Okay. So I have outlined a plan.
Yes, yes. Absolutely.
Should it get approved,
Okay.
my goal is to teach youth, and I'm a crafter, so I make like earrings, T-shirts, cups, and stuff like that. Teach them what I know, and if I could get Mr. Walker to come in and teach them or whatever, and some craft carpenters and electricians, because as we get older, we need those things, even if
Yes.
while we're young, because everybody is not, they don't want to go to college,
Okay.
but they need to learn to work with their hands to advance.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So, but in my portion, I want to teach them how to, one, make the jewelry or whatever, how to package it, and then how to send it out via not the post office,
There you go.
but straight from your home. Print the label out, slap it on there, call someone, pick it up, or take it to the post office. So you can have a manufacturing plant in your garage. A lot of people start off in their garage or your bedroom, your
Yes,
spare room,
indeed.
whatever. Our youth need to take on those gifts and those talents because they are multi-talented. Our children are.
Without a doubt.
And they need opportunity. You can see from some of the graffiti, take the graffiti and put it on a painter's mat,
Wow.
put it
See?
in a frame.
Come on. Yes.
Black art, Latino art, you just
Yes.
name it. And we need to tell them, let's utilize your gifts, your
Mhm.
talents, so you can make money. I like some of the wonderful graffiti that is out there, but it has to have permission.
Yes. And a positive message.
And a positive,
And a
yes, and a
positive-
positive message. I know we went on a tour, and Oasis Travel, Miss Peggy Watson, I want to give her props. It's almost entirely African American tour, but she take us on various and different places.
Okay.
And we went to, I think it was Alabama, and we went and she always find really good tour guides, and he would take us through the city, and he would show us murals that were painted by people within the community who had
Yes.
permission,
Yes.
and they were pictures of historic black people.
Thank you.
If we could do something like that, or if we have boarded up houses, put a nice design on that board before you slap it on that window.
There you go.
But there's a lot that we could teach our children,
Yes.
because once they learn that here, when they get into school, and now I'm talking about those who go off to college, HBCUs are excellent. I know they encourage my daughter. I'm not going to say that they're perfect,
She was at
because there's
Jackson
not
State.
there's not a perfect person, not a perfect school, not a perfect entity. But I know during the COVID, my daughter was laying up in a bed just resting, and her teacher said, "Get up out that bed and get that paperwork in." And she did graduate.
Oh,
You know,
yes,
and we need
absolutely.
teachers to encourage our children.
Yes.
But all of that starts at home. It takes a village.
Let me ask, and not just Rebecca Bradley, but please join us if either of you has a response to this. It's on us all the time, so you won't be surprised at the question. Does today's adversarial atmosphere present significant challenges to advancing what you want our children to learn? Our political atmosphere in America at this time is worse than I've seen it, and I'm not a youngster. I've seen a lot of things. And there are actual removals of artifacts, of written products that they're trying to keep away from or take away from those. And by the way, this is something that we don't say often enough. We talk about the fact that they take away things that black children should learn. I would suggest to you, they take away things that children should learn
Yes.
about black history. It
Yes.
is not just, please go
right,
ahead.
Right, very, very much so. And in a way, it's a backlash. It's not in a way it's a backlash. It's a backlash, but at the same time, it should be something used to stimulate
Thank
Yeah.
you.
us into doing more, because and some of us go back a few years and stuff.
Yes, sir.
But in the 60s, in the 70s, even with the Black Panthers and stuff, it was about educating yourself,
Yes.
educating the community, bringing forth. There was a lot of books written and study groups and
Yes.
this, that, and the other
Yes.
that were working on that should be doing that. May have took our foot off the gas a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Got a little comfortable and thought that we didn't have to do that anymore. And I think we need to be doing that. Churches played a huge part in that.
Without a doubt.
And churches have to step back up again
Yes.
and stuff. I mean, that church was the focal point of learning about your rights and stuff. They didn't go to a law room and
Come
stuff
on.
like that. They had a meeting at the church.
Yes.
About voting rights, about
Yes.
getting involved and stuff. When they were organizing marches and stuff, where'd they organize them at? At a church.
Thank you.
And
No
went
doubt
out and
about it.
stuff peacefully
Yes, sir.
and all. But
Yes, sir.
that's something that we have to. This environment says, okay, maybe you need to look back on those pages. You don't do it all the same way and stuff. I mean,
Thank
Martin
you
Luther
very
King and Martin Luther King and them didn't have cell phones.
Come on.
And
That's right.
so organizing and all that's a whole different ball game now. So you can't go back and do it the same way. But we need to have that 2025
Yeah.
method
Yes.
of pushing ourselves.
Yes.
I stand corrected. We were in Tulsa with all the graffiti and the painting, which was beautiful.
Did you say Tulsa?
Yeah, we went to Tulsa. We got a chance to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I said Georgia,
Black
but it
Wall
was
Street.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yes.
That is a wonderful and beautiful place to visit
Oh,
if you
my
get a chance
goodness.
to visit it.
Thank you.
And
Thank
the
you.
history that they teach, you're right. They teaching what they want to tell us. But once you get there, because when I thought of the Tulsa bombing, I thought it was just the business district. It wasn't the business district.
Come on.
It was, entire town. Just it would be as if they had bomb Leeds,
Come on.
all of Leeds.
Can you imagine?
Because they were prosperous. They
My
were more
God.
prosperous than the people surrounding them.
Yes.
And you know something I want to tell this I learned, they recovered. Even though they dropped bombs on them, they
Yes.
recovered. They built their homes.
Stay on that microphone.
They built their homes. They had their fireplaces. Their homes burnt down.
Come on.
But they
See?
went to that little brick
See?
in that fireplace
Yes, isn't that
where
something?
they stored their money.
Come on, isn't that amazing?
And they rebuilt their town.
This is wonderful and remarkable in many different ways. And let me tell you something in terms of an inspiration from looking at it from a historical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, if you saw a likeness of Angela Davis, back in the day, if you saw a likeness of Huey Newton, back in the day, so they're talking about Black Panthers. On the west side of Chicago, they had the Egyptian Cobras and the Vice Lords, well-known gang. The Black Panthers and those two, Egyptian Cobras and the Vice Lords, set up a feeding program on the west side of Chicago called the Mile Square area with a lady whose name was Nancy Jefferson. Many people have no idea that they were feeding people, that they were keeping the community safe, that they were providing transportation, and they were examples for the groups on the south side of Chicago.
Right.
So that in 1971, Jeff Fort called a meeting on 39th and Wabash at the Elliott Donnelly Youth Center, and it was going kind of like this. If you were a part of that particular gang, you would hit your chest. Stone thing. You tough. He pulled together the High Supreme Cobras, the Egyptian Cobras, the East Side Disciples, the Gangster Disciples, the Del Viking, all of these gangs. Had them sound off, and he said, Del Vikings, Stone Thing. Four Corners, Stone Thing. You know what they were doing? They were putting together a political coalition of young gangbangers who were going to vote Mayor Daley out of office and start something that was productive. Our singing group happened to do USO shows. We left. When I came back, and we weren't doing what I quite thought of, they said, check out the drugs and the high-powered weapons. We did not have poppy fields in Ida B. Wells projects. We did not have gun
That's right.
manufacturers. But when those young people became politically astute and started doing something positive, all of a sudden it was easy to start
Yeah.
that drug market. Let us not forget our history,
Oh, yeah.
because
Yes.
today we need Rebecca Bradley in a major,
But
major way.
I want to say this one story. Well, it's not a story. The conclusion to the matter with the Tulsa.
Oh, yeah.
They had everything. They had hotels. They had movie theaters. They even had their banks. They had the best of homes. The tour guide told us it was one thing that they did not have:
Uh-oh.
a politician.
Ooh.
Because a politician would have
Ooh.
stopped
Come on.
the others from invading upon them. You know, because
Wow.
you need that help,
Yes.
that political help. You know, because all politics is local.
Yes.
You know,
Clearly.
and I think we may have to return to feeding our children, just like the Black Panthers did.
My God.
You know, because as you stated earlier, when we opened up, things have not been this bad.
My
You
God.
know, and they're shutting down food assistance programs. And so our babies will go hungry.
Yes,
and we're
ma'am.
going to have to help.
This is serious. Clearly. And by the way, it in fact, Brother Walker does go back to the church, because the church was one place that they could not impose upon, because the church depended upon tithes and offerings. So they didn't have to go somewhere else to get their support. And here again, back to Rebecca Bradley saying that you are basing a program on your faith orientation
Yeah.
as much as, if not more than.
The name of my organization or my ministry is Home Missions Outreach Ministry.
Yes.
And I modeled a lot of it after Assemblies of God. I am now in Church of God in Christ.
Yes.
And we're going to be doing more outreach because the community needs us more so than any other time. Because, they want to kill us. When I say kill us, not necessarily physically. They want to kill our aspirations. They want to kill our dreams.
Yes.
They want to starve us out, and I just won't let my mind go any further. I just want to keep it positive. It's left up to us to do what Tulsa did. And Tulsa wasn't the only one, because we went to the museum down there and we saw all of those other places on the maps with those bombs, signs where they got black people got bombed out of their homes. But we should not allow that to stop us.
Thank you very much, because we talk about the Harlem Renaissance and what happened in New York and some other places. But Sister DeQuay has given us the sign where we are getting close to the end of the program. Two things that are very important. One is how we participate. The other is how we support. So please address those two things.
Okay, so how we participate is we need to get with, first, I ain't going to say that. Well, I will. We need to get with organizations who are already doing outreach. And then, two, we need to create and develop organizations that are doing outreach.
Yes.
Participate and what else?
Yeah, no, I was saying participate and support.
Yeah, and support them. If not financially, when you go to the grocery store, buy an extra canned good or something like that.
Okay.
Know where your money is going.
Okay.
If you ride past an organization that doesn't appear as though they're really helping people or just taking money, and one thing I learned when I first started doing this, sometimes a lot of CEOs make more money in nonprofit organizations. So we had to make sure that the money is not going to the top but coming down.
Yes, ma'am, without a doubt. Okay, contact information one more time.
Okay, my telephone number is 816-551-1077. I am Rebecca Bradley, Home Missions Outreach Ministry, and I'm a missionary.
Outstanding. My goodness, as a matter of fact, DeQuay Wilson and Louis George Walker, you were right. When I said who was coming, I did in being delighted.
Yes.
Were you going to say something?
No,
Yes,
no.
and
Just
DeQuay,
agreeing.
Hearing what you've heard, what do you have to say before we close out?
We don't have enough time left for what I have to say or what I want to say. We have 2 minutes, and there's a lot. When we think about what I term the American Christian, because this is what is being portrayed publicly as Christianity is not what Christianity truly stands for. How do we, and then we think about people that are, for lack of a better term and for time, scamming in the name of outreach.
Ooh-wee.
How do we convince, what do we do to convince the masses to get on board with an actual organization that is really truly doing something, because we are so fearful, especially when we think about the scams, we think about emails that we get, we think about even text messages that we get that are scams. How do we what do we do to truly get the people on board? And you are absolutely correct. We need to feed them. Not, I don't know if start, but you can't teach if you're hungry. So feeding them is where it starts. But then not just the canned goods, because not all the food that's out there is good for us. So we have to start with.
So
we have to start with our own food. But we really are almost out of time. And again,
this is so important, and I always know that DeQuay has that.
I said canned goods because it's inexpensive.
Because it's exactly.
Inexpensive.
Okay.
And we really need to move away from the canned goods because it raises our blood pressure, our blood sugar, our heart, and all of that. But look for organizations. Look, are they doing You know, a lot of people are out
Praise
there
God.
collecting money, but they
Well,
are
let
not
me-
doing.
Well, let me say that I thank you so much, and I think that Louis George Walker and Carl Boyd are empathetic when we hear what we are hearing, and I think both of us are probably saying, well, there's a show. There's a whole program on precisely not just the impact, but the reality of our faith and how it manifests. Have to say a profound not only thank you to Rebecca Bradley for being here, but this is our collective invitation for you to come back because you are doing so much and so well. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.
You are more than
And
welcome.
God bless you.
Thank you, Louis George Walker. Here's DeQuay Wilson.
I'd like to thank our guests, our listeners, our viewers for joining us on your Stutes for Boots Wave Your Grades program. We come to you live every Saturday from 1 and today just past 2 Central Standard Time from the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center right here in Kansas City, Missouri. I am your announcer, DeQuay Wilson. Now, Carl's got to close with either his commentary on academic patriotism or his daily message for students in honor of our veterans from his book, Morning Messages.
Thank you so very, very much, Rebecca Bradley, DeQuay Wilson, Louis George Walker. My name is Carl Boyd. To students across the USA, your Stutes for Boots message for this day. You cannot look in a hero's eyes and be a student who never tries. Thank you very much for listening, gracious God and wonderful Wanda. I'm on my way home.